Hey everybody, this is Laravel DFW. This is September 2014 meetup. So some pretty cool things going on. I don't have any announcements this month, um, so email me stuff if you want it to be known, if you have any job openings or anything like that. But we have some pretty cool stuff coming up today. We have Andrew Del Prete, who's going to be here. Did I even say your name right? I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
I've ever
that's
said
pretty
your last
close.
name,
Del Prete.
Del Preti.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew Del Preti's here, and he's going to be talking about Laravel and Angular together, and specifically Restangular, which I don't actually even know what that is, so I'm going to be learning today. Um, but it's going to be great. And so we have Osvaldo here and Stuart and a couple other people are probably going to jump in. Really quickly, let me just remind anybody who's watching that through the course of this thing that we're doing here, you can go to laraveldfw.com/ask and let me show that. Yep, there it is. Go to laraveldfw.com/ask and post a question and we'll talk about it. Andrew will answer any question you ask him. Um, doesn't matter how crazy it is. I'm just kidding. Probably keep it to like Angular or Laravel, but we'll answer it. I know a lot of people have questions on Angular. There's a ton of people tweeting about it just because it seems like it's a popular coupling right now in the web space of PHP developers at least. And so, yeah, without further ado, why don't I just hand it off to you, Andrew, so you can take it from here.
Sure. Thanks, Tanner. I almost feel like I should show myself here while I'm talking, but I think I'll leave it on the
Maybe
slide
maybe
here.
give him a quick preview of the awesomeness that is Andrew
All
out
right,
there.
here. Let me see here. Stop sharing. Hey, there. Can you see me?
There you go.
Hey. All right. So I'm Andrew. I work with Tanner. He gave me this awesome opportunity to talk with y'all, and I'm a front end developer. And I love Laravel, and I also love Angular and really anything JavaScript. Um, so when you asked me, I just kind of jumped on the opportunity, and I really find that when I have to show or present or teach, I learn it a whole lot better. So I definitely recommend if you ever have an opportunity to do anything like this, to take it, and you'll end up learning whatever it is you're going to talk about better. So anyway, so Laravel and REST Angular. Let's do this. So first, which I kind of already did, my name is Andrew Del Preti. I guess the last guy, John, he had like a very Italian last name. Oh yeah, I need to share my screen. One second here. Let me go back here and
Yeah,
share.
John
Shelley.
Fischelli. He's kind of
Shelley.
regular around here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I liked his talk. So, all right, can you guys see my slides here? Hello.
Yes, I can see
Okay,
them.
cool. Great. All right, so great. So this is me, my family. I have a beautiful wife and three handsome boys. I am from Texas, but I recently moved to Alaska 2 years ago, and it's been a real nice journey, and it's crazy here. It's a lot different than Texas, but I relate with you guys that are in Texas. I lived about 2 hours east of Dallas, and so we made our way to Dallas quite a bit for things. I lived there for 18 years, and now Alaska's our home, and we love it. Definitely recommend visiting and come up sometime. It's a beautiful place, a lot different. Um, so this is my Twitter handle, Paths of Design, and my website. And if you missed it, I do work at the Music Bed with Tanner, and been there for several months now. And before that, I worked at a agency based in Kilgore, Texas, called Cypress Interactive, and I worked there for 8 years as their front end developer and just kind of all around web guy. Did anything really, everything. A small company, so I wore a lot of hats, and so yep. So anyway, so without further ado, let's keep going here. So what are we covering today? first of all, I just kind of want to show you, like my job today really is just to kind of get like wet your whistle, um, just kind of get you interested maybe in Angular and just kind of show you what REST Angular can do for you. Um, I just hope by the end of this talk it just makes sense and you'll have enough understanding to kind of go through and maybe get started somewhere. So I'm going to show you or explain to you some of the benefits of REST Angular over other alternatives. I'm going to show a little intro on how to do some basic HTTP requests with REST Angular. I'm going to give you a quick overview or review of Laravel resource routes and controllers. I'm going to build a small single-page application that I named Cora, like Avatar Cora. I'm a pretty big geek when it comes to Avatar. I have kids that love her and him. So I
Awesome.
called Cora. I was going to call it Aang, but it wasn't going to work. So Cora,
Yeah.
and basically it's just like a experimental blog application I built just for this, and I've already built it, and I'm going to try to rebuild it live. So we'll see how that works and how far I get. But I'm going to show some online resources, and that's it. And then questions.
Hey, one thing before you
Sure.
start, can you hit the format paintbrush?
Oh, there you go.
Sweet.
Yep.
Now it's bigger. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Hey, and so just so you know, this is my first presentation ever. So if yeah, afterwards, please hit me up. I'm sure there's probably a place you could do that and help me do better next time, and maybe give me some tips or encouragement or whatever you'd like to do. So
Yeah, we
I
can we can either put it on SlideShare. I think John did that last time, and then
okay,
also at Laracon, I'm trying to remember the website they use. We can find out, and then we can post it on the Meetup.
okay.
Well, actually, really quick, does anybody remember the name of that website? Because it did have commenting.
I was trying to find that because I wanted to do that. I don't remember.
Well, for now, let's just say it'll probably be up on SlideShare, and hopefully that has commenting capabilities. So cool.
Okay. All right. So next, so what is REST Angular? And if this was actually working, this would play obviously, but it's magic. I've really come to love the module from the actual REST Angular site. At the top, it quotes, REST Angular is an Angular JS service that simplifies common get, post, delete, and update requests with a minimum of client code. It's a perfect fit for any web app that consumes data from a RESTful API. Um, so what are the benefits? This is what I've found and just researching online and kind of some personal opinions, but um, creating a single page application is easier than ever. It has, if you are familiar with JavaScript at all, this whole thing is built off of promises. It's a great way to simplify JSON CRUD. It utilizes an explicit syntax that is easy to remember. Um, I kind of like Laravel for that sense, but this isn't completely like that, but it is something that is easy to remember. Allows you to forget full URLs. Supports all HTTP methods. Helps the developer throw away the jQuery crutch, which I've come to try to get away from all the time. It seems like any front-end developer out there is tied to jQuery, and it's a great tool. Obviously, it's an amazing tool, but when that's all you use, exclusively, there's something wrong. I mean, you're probably missing some other great things out there. Um, REST Angular allows you to chain methods together for complex requests, which I'll show you, and it's very configurable, customizable, and there's more. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to show you everything about REST Angular in this. It's actually a really cool module, probably one of the best I've seen for Angular, and there's a lot to it, so I'm going to hit the basics. So can't I already AJAX? So there's many alternatives. I'm just listing a couple here that I've found that I've used. And first of all, jQuery offers a great line of AJAXing methods, AJAX, GET, JSON, etc. The problem is these methods are low level and are not abstracted into a reusable service. So unless you are creating like a method or like a function that utilizes these jQuery methods for doing your AJAX stuff, it's not really a reusable thing. Like you're just going to have these AJAX block code throughout your source all over the place, and it's not really tied to each other or anything. It's not really a reusable service. Um, HTTP is a low-level AJAX service that is native to AngularJS. It's a lot like jQuery's AJAX methods, but can be injected into Angular, and is what REST Angular builds upon internally. So HTTP is basically a module, like I said here, that is built into Angular and works a lot like the jQuery AJAX-y stuff. Again, you can kind of just piecemeal it and put it in your controllers and different things as you see fit, but it's not really abstracted out into a service where you can utilize it like better, I guess. It's just sort of all over the place. Angular tried to kind of like fix that, or at least create some sort of service, and they have one called Resource, and it's native to Angular. Actually, you have to load another file, but it's built by Angular, and it's in their documentation. It's difficult to use and buggy. I did a really big project before I got my job at the music bed that we used Resource, and to be honest, I can't even remember how we used it. It's just very convoluted to me. Some people love it, but I find that REST Angular is a lot easier to use, and it just reads better. So what are the requirements of REST Angular? Obviously AngularJS, and it uses the Lodash or underscore library inside of that. So you have to load Lodash or underscore. I prefer Lodash when you run Angular. So setting up REST Angular. So again, I'm going to kind of give you some slides with some code snippets here. These are just stuff I put together quickly, and then I'm going to kind of go through this for real. Hopefully I'll have time to do that. So if you ever loaded anything in Angular, and I know John went through great detail last time on doing stuff. He did a great job. So I'm not going to try to explain everything he did, but basically to start like an Angular app, you declare your app name as a module, and then you inject modules into that you can reuse throughout. So this is if I had an app called My App, I am injecting the REST Angular service into that so I can use it throughout my app. Angular comes with a configuration type of methodology called providers. REST Angular has its own provider, and you can globally set the base URL for your REST application. So for this one, I have it as API version 1. So whenever I use REST Angular throughout my app, it's going to go ahead and prefix the API, the request with this here. What's really cool about REST Angular is it also has another level of that, where if I created a service called, let's say, animal service, I can basically, when I call the REST Angular module, I can actually set another base URL just for that particular module. So like if I had one for, a better example would be like Twitter or anything that consumes an API, I can create a service and just overwrite the base URL with another base URL. And then whenever I use that object, it will just use that new URL. So that's that. I'm going to keep going here. So to start off, creating a main REST Angular object. This is from their site. There are 3 ways of creating a main REST Angular object. The first one and most common is by stating the main route of all requests. The second one is by stating the main route and object of all requests. Each object can be built upon and utilized later in our code to do various requests. So after I've set up my REST Angular configuration, I can start using it in my application. And so, for instance, I have an animals like a animals, what do you say, like table in my database, or animals like entity. And basically what Restangular allows me to do is it allows me to specify the route that I want to use for my requests. So for instance, Restangular .all animals would give me and I'll show you in a second, it would give me API version 1/animals. Stating a main object, this is for one particular object, it would be API version 1/animals/1234 for a specific animal. And then there's a several thing which I haven't used, but basically it calls your IDs with commas in the URL, in the actual API call, for calling more than one at a time. So here are some kind of basic get, post, put, and delete type of things. So so at the top of this service type of thing here, we are building a reusable route object for animal services. So going back to my last slide, this is the very first option here, and it's the most common. So basically, anytime I use the animal service object, it's going to look for animals, and then I can actually call things on top of that. So animals, and then an ID, or animals, and then like another type of list. So this is actually just building the URL, and it actually is not making any calls yet. It's just building the URL. So to make a GET request, I have to call the GET list. So basically right now this is doing an API version 1 animals. So as you can see, it's really easy. It's just a kind of clean call here to get one, or excuse me, to post or to create an animal. I can just create like a JSON object here, and all I need to do is call my animal service and post that animal. So it's going to post to API version 1 animals. So it's continually using this animals service and using that. So let's see, to maybe make some modifications to this animal. In this particular example, first I'm getting the animal. Okay, so I'm using my animal service to get 1, which is ID 1. And then this is the promise thing that Rest Angular does, is that once that is returned, so it's going to go out to the web and find this entity or this animal. Then I'm going to set the result to edit animal variable. I'm going to change the type to a cat. It had a some kind of trans type procedure. I have no idea. Change from dog to cat, and then I'm going to put. So I'm using edit animal put. What's really cool about Angular, and hopefully you'll see when I actually show the demonstration, is that any object that REST Angular returns, for instance, after I sent out a GET request to this animal ID of 1, and it returned the animal, that animal is a REST Angular object. And I can do things with that. I can remove it, or I can put. Another option would be to save. It's the same thing. REST Angular knows. So basically, it's going to go to API version 1 animals 1. So that route is saved internally in that object to where I can just call that particular object and put, and it'll know what route to hit and put to, and what data to send it. So that's really cool, and I hope that makes sense. That's kind of the magical part, and when I do a demonstration, maybe that'll help. Another way I can get this animal is doing the 1 method here, and what I'm doing is I'm actually requesting API version or v1 animals 1, and I'm removing it. So I'm sending a delete request to this route here. Something that is really cool about REST Angular is you can chain things. So basically, the 1 method and the all method is really just building these requests, and then you have these like actionable methods like get list and get and put and all these different things that actually call the request. So this with this line here, I am building a route called with animals 1, 2, 3, and then history. And then I'm hitting get list, which is actually making that request. With this one here, I am calling animals 1, 2, 3. So animal 1, 2, 3 with the history of record 4, 5, 6, and that's one request. But I'm building this route here. Another thing here is, see, I'm doing a post, so I'm actually going to post some history to this particular animal. So I'm building my route. I've got animals 1, 2, 3. I'm going to append the history route to that, and then I'm going to post an object to that. The same thing with delete here. I'm going to I've got a history of 4, 5, 6, and I'm actually just going to delete it. So Restangular is really cool in the sense that you can build these really complex queries, and you can actually do custom routes as well. This is following just kind of your traditional REST pattern, which I really haven't went far from. Laravel really supports it with its resource controllers, its routes, and I think it's just sort of like the spec that is out there. But you know, by any means, you can actually change where these things go and what you do with them. This is just how it comes out of the box. All right, so here's the scary part. Let's build something. So I'm going to do my best to try to rebuild this core app.
Woohoo!
Hey, can you see? Can you hear?
Yeah, I just said woohoo.
Oh, okay, I thought you said whoa. All right. Am I going too fast, Tanner, or am I doing okay here?
I think we're good. Everybody else good? James, Stewart, anybody? Y'all good?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Can I ask
Sure.
something now?
Sure.
About where, like, so you said that there's the dependency, I forget the name of it, the other dependency besides Angular.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
where is REST Angular coming from? Is it coming from Lodash? I'm
Okay.
just
So
confused about that.
so in the app, I'll show you. I probably should have put that somewhere in these slides, but REST Angular is just a file, like a JS file.
Okay,
But when you load it, you need to load Lodash as well. So you're loading two files.
gotcha.
Um,
Is that made by Angular or is that just
no, Lodash is not. Actually, Lodash is built by a guy that was like, if I understand the history, that was trying to pick up where underscore left off because underscore wasn't doing a very good job with stuff, and it's basically a drop-in replacement with some extra stuff.
sorry, is REST Angular made by Angular?
It's not.
Oh, okay,
It's
cool.
not. But I wouldn't be surprised if Angular adopts it in like one of its releases because it's that much better than I think their resource, their native one that they built.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So you're welcome. Okay, so let's build something. Make sure that's the last slide. Okay, so let me see what I can do here. I'm gonna try to do this. Move this over here, and let's see here. All right, can you guys see PHP Storm?
Not yet. I don't know if it's coming through.
Okay, let's see. How about this one?
Not
See it?
yet.
Not there?
Nope.
Okay, let me see here. Let me it's not coming through. That's really weird. Let's make sure I got the right. Here, let me share my screen again or turn off.
Yeah.
I'm
Sometimes that helps.
gonna share the same screen. Hey, there it is.
It looks black to us. Oh wait, no, it's there.
Is it?
Cool. It's
Okay,
there.
can you guys read it okay and see it?
Um, it's probably a little small. I don't know if you can boost up your font
Yeah.
size really quick.
Yeah, let's see how I do that in here. I haven't done this. I haven't messed with PHP Storm for a while. If I can just do that. Nope. Try that.
It's probably okay. We can
Okay.
just move forward. I can read it here on a. So if you're
Okay.
watching this later, just make sure you're watching it in HD.
Okay. All right. So let me open up my notes just to make sure I have them here. All right, so first of all, I wanted to show you just my routes for this particular app. Um, so basically what I have here is I have, this is a single page application, so I'm going to load up one like main index view. And inside of that, I'm just going to go ahead and use all of my Angular stuff.
And just really quick,
Sure.
one thing you may want to mention, or one thing is just anybody who's watching, this is now Laravel,
Right.
obviously. So
Yeah, so this is I'm going to show you what I built in Laravel. I'm not going to rebuild that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you what I have done in Laravel, and then how I'm going to tie it into that with Angular. So I built this little app just for the purpose of this presentation, and I have it on GitHub, and you guys can check that out afterwards if you like. It's not a feature-complete blog by any means. This is just an experiment and to demonstrate. So this is my routes file in Laravel. This is a Laravel 4.2 installation. I have one just main route for the main URL, and it's loading an index file. And then I have this API route, which I have a prefix with API version 1. And I have a categories resource route, a tags, posts, and then I have two child or nested routes called categories and tags. I'll show you my how this is built. Let me actually open up this real quick. Let's see, VM, and let's see. Okay, let's see if I can get this to look a little better, maybe. There we go. So here are all the routes, basically that is being built by Laravel with this resource method. So you can see kind of what I have here. I'll kind of get into this a little bit more, but this is a good way to see all your routes. Close that up. All right. So first of all, I have this one view, right? So I need somewhere to put this Angular app, and I think John really showed this last week. And but I have this index.blade file, and this could be really cleaned up a lot, but just for brevity, I'm just going to kind of show it as is. But I am declaring my app here at the top. This is what Angular looks for when it is trying to run your application. It's looking for this ng app, and my app name is called Cora. Also loading some Bootstrap. I have this loading bar thing, which is just an Angular loading bar thing. Just some CSS, a CSRF token, which I'm not even using really. I have a header and nav, and I have, this is the second most important part, is I have a place for my Angular app to feed. Okay, so this is going to be where all of my views in Angular are going to be shown. So I have this here. I'm using UI router, which I'll kind of show a little bit. I have a footer, and then here's some stuff. I'm not using gulp or grunt anywhere in this project right now. Nothing's minified. I am not concatenating anything. Everything has its own file. So it's kind of a mess, but just to show you what each of these things does. So first of all, I'm loading Angular. I'm using a CDN for that. I'm loading Restangular. I'm loading the UI router, and I'm loading Lodash, and then this loading bar thing. That's my very first. That's just to get started here. I wanted to show you real quick before I got into that. I kind of skipped something. Let me see if I can do this here. Move this over. If you ever work with a REST application, this is going back to the Laravel routes things before I go further, but I wanted to show you Postman if you haven't used it ever. I just want to show you that these routes do work. I have a view route, so when I go to core.dev API version 1 posts, it should work here. is sending back results here.
We're actually not able to see your screen.
Oh, you're not? That's weird. I can't like bring stuff over. It just shows. It's weird.
Oh, you know what? I think I figured it out. Are you
What's that?
maybe choosing your PHP Storm window instead of a screen?
Maybe. Maybe. Let me try something real quick. Okay,
Sorry,
so I hit
everybody
that.
watching at home.
No, that's fine. Here we. Maybe. There we go. That was right, Tanner. So that's probably why my keynote wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. Okay, so here we go.
There we go.
Like I said, first time doing this, guys. Don't stone me. So I have Postman running here, and basically Postman is just a kind of a nice interface here to call REST APIs, and you can like kind of make some APIs and save them under collections. I have one called Cora, and so right now I'm calling my posts route, and I've got some posts coming in. I can update stuff. I can create posts. So if I wanted to create a post called test, I can just send some oops, that didn't work. Okay, I must have changed some stuff since then. But anyway, this is just a nice program to actually just kind of save your tests and go through it. You can do that or curl or whatever you want to do in the terminal, but I find it pretty useful. So I've got my index page here. So I need to start building things. Let's see here. So I'm going to first, in my public folder here, I'm going to create something. So I have nothing really loading right now. And let me try to pull this up here. Let's see, Cora dev. It's probably just going to show. Okay, yeah. So I have the nav bar, and I have a footer. So I have nothing, no content yet. I probably have some JavaScript errors even, but we won't look at that. So I'm going to just move that over. Okay, so where am I here? So I need to create a some content here in my public folder. So I'm going to create a folder called Cora, and I am going to do a couple things here. So first of all, I need to create. This is just how I structure apps sometimes, especially for little small ones here. I'm going to create an Angular folder, and inside of Angular, I'm going to create layouts. Oops, sorry, boom. Layouts. I'm going to create. Let's see. I'm actually going to create views. Sorry, views. I'll put layouts and views. And inside of layouts, I'm going to create a template. Okay, so I'm going to go into File. I'm just going to name this home.html. And while it's doing, I'm going to pull up kind of like my other app here and see kind of what I did so I can do this. Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to kind of paste this here. So this template is what I'm going to inject into my index file right here. Okay, so this is just kind of typical Bootstrap stuff. And then you'll notice this kind of special thing here called UI view posts. And this is another kind of container or holder that Angular is going to look for to put more content and to inject more content. So I have that. So I need something to actually like inject in there. I want to show kind of the recent posts for this blog. So I need something in there. So I'm going to create another directory called posts. And I'm going to create a file called, let's see, list.html. And I'm going to just call, let's see, I'm going to just paste this in here too. All right. So some of this is just Angular jargon, but an ng repeat is basically going to take an array and just repeat and loop through it. And then it makes whatever you're looping through available to what's inside of this. So post is available here, and I'm going to kind of spit out the title, the created at, and a tag name. I think I want to hold off on the tag name for now. We'll just do this here. So a title and created at, and then a link to the detail, which we'll have to build. Next, I'm going to create a controller. So this isn't going to do anything yet unless I tell it to, right? So this is just going to sit there. So basically, in Angular, I'm going to create a folder called controllers. And I'm going to create something called, I could actually create like a posts folder in this, or I can restructure this differently, but I'm just going to stick it right here, and it's post list controller.js. Okay, and let's see here, and let me get there. Okay, and before all that, this is something I completely skipped, I'm sorry, is I need to create my module. So before I can do anything with this, I need to create a file to actually load it all. So I'm going to just call this app.js and put it in the root folder of Angular here. And I'm going to name my module here. So actually just do this, use strict, and I'm going to call Angular. I'm going to just, I'll leave that there, it's good. And I'll just kind of paste this in. Right. And then really, yeah, we'll do that. And then as I showed you in my example in the slides, I can set the base URL for the entire app for REST Angular to something. So I'm going to do that here. The next thing I can do is I need to build these routes. So I think John showed it last time, but I'm using UI router, and I've got UI router injected here in REST Angular. And basically, I'm going to build some routes. So I'm going to just grab a couple of these and post them here. See here. So that would be good for now. Yeah, let's do that. All right. So I'm using the state provider. Like I said before, providers in Angular are basically configurations for modules. So like this UI router has a state provider, and I'm doing some configuration up front in my application, and this is where I'm setting up my routes. This is my home route here, and I have basically, and you'll have to look into UI router a little bit to kind of understand this, but my first route here does not have a URL. Basically, it's an abstract route, and what I'm doing is I'm just loading my home.html, this kind of container HTML, and then what I am doing is I have this like nested route here that when I go to the the forward slash the actual home page, is actually going to load kind of like Angular, or excuse me, Laravel does with its sections, and when you yield sections and things like that, it's sort of like you have these nested templates. This is exactly what that's doing, is that I'm basically nesting a template inside my home template. So I can reuse this home template, or I could call it something else, and I can just like inject like different content into that template. So this is just kind of like my template thing. It could be called like main or one column or something. Oops, column or whatever I wanted to call it. I'm just calling it home now. So when I go to the home page, this is what route is going to show up. I'm going to look. It's looking for the post view container. So if I go back to my home, you can see here, this is that special area here. So whatever I do in that route is going to be injected right here into this posts. So I'm going to go back here. So basically, I'm going to inject this template. So I'm specifying it by URL, the list HTML, and then this is the controller that's attached to that template. So typically, I think with Angular, you can really just have one controller to like one view at a time. And I could reuse this controller elsewhere on other reviews, but like for one instance here, I can't like load like two controllers or two views and use the same controller. But for this particular route, I'm using this in this view here. There's this data, this data property here, and I could just post any like arbitrary data I want. I kind of liken this to like a view composers in Laravel, where you can just kind of like throw data in into your views when they're called. And this is kind of like that. So when I hit this route, this data is going to be available. All right, so that's that. What else here? So I have home, which is my main kind of template, and inside home is going to be injected this list, which is going to take these, it's going to loop through these posts and hopefully display my posts. Let's see, so next I need to create a controller. So I've got this post list controller that I need to create. As you can tell, like let's see in app.js, that's the controller that I'm calling right here. So post list controller. So I'm going to go to that, and I need to fill this in. So let me grab this here. All right. So in my controller, basically, I am naming the module that this is attached to, which is Cora. I am naming my controller here, post list controller. And there's several things in here that might not need to be here yet, but here it is. So basically, I am setting just kind of just like a variable up here at the top, a global for this particular file here, and I'm going to loop with Lodash through the data. So I have injected state, and now I'm going to loop through the data array, which is the array that I set here. So I can create a number of things like blah blah equals 1. And I can actually loop through that inside my controller and use it for things. In this instance, I'm basically looping through it and setting a params array, which I will use. And then I've got the service that I haven't built yet. But basically, that's going to use Restangular to pull in, make my request and pull it in. And then I have these event listeners. So event listeners are really huge in JavaScript, but in Angular especially. You'll broadcast events and you will listen for events. And that's how you communicate between different views and controllers. So that's my controller. I need to create a service. So I'm going to create another thing here called services. All right, and let me get that. Post. And I'm going to call this service. Let's see, what did I call it here? I think I just called it post service. We'll just do that.
Yeah, I was thinking it was called post service.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know how this would go trying to rebuild this. I did it by myself once, and it seemed like it was a lot faster. Anyway, I'll keep going here. So I've got a post service here. Notice how I'm just declaring the module here, and now this is a service. So before with the controller, it was controller, and I had a controller there, but now I have a service. And then this is a reusable service that I can use throughout my application in any controller. And you'll notice in my post list controller, I am injecting it right here. Okay, and I'm using it. And so really all of services is an object that is instantiated when you inject it. So I have basically this object here, and like my examples shows, I'm injecting Restangular. So I'm injecting a service inside a service, pretty much, nested services. And basically, I am beginning with just a variable that's set to posts. So that's going to every sequential request is going to have API version 1 / posts, and then from there on, I'm going to start list my methods that I need to do stuff. So my first method is list here, and as you can see, this is going to get API version 1 posts. So first of all, I'm going to broadcast that I'm getting a list. Now I don't know if I actually need that right here, but if anything needs to be listening for that, but it's there just in case something is. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to call on my post service variable here, and going to call get list, and I can throw in parameters. So basically with this application, my parameters are just like a Laravel, excuse me, let's see here. My parameters would be something like limit 5 or something. Just have something inside Laravel where I'm, calling the amount I want, and I can actually do like per page equals 5 or something, and it would actually pull a paginated result. So, but my params are basically what I set in my my app here. I'm setting the post limit to 5.
Very cool. Very cool.
So I'm kind of just pulling that in and using that, and so my pro service is getting this. If I don't know if it's worth anything, but I will go and show this in Laravel here, which you guys are probably all like better than Laravel than I am. So, but what I have here is I have a repository for posts, I think is where I've got it at. Let's do controllers first. Let's do post controller. I try to keep my controllers like super lean. I don't have any validation in here, but if I did, it would be like injected in and just like one line. But no validation yet. So I have a index here, and basically when I call the posts route, I'm calling on my repo, and I'm actually passing the params through here, and then I'm returning a JSON object. My post repository is here, and what was that, list, I think, or show index, excuse me. This has got a little extra data in it for later on, but basically I'm injecting my model up here in my constructor. Boom, that's all through the IOC, and I got a query. Excuse me, I have one of those scope methods in my model, and I'm basically just calling that, and then throwing an exception if there's less than 1. If not, I'm returning. So that's just kind of how I'm doing it here. Like I said, there's probably a lot more I can do with that. So that's that. And then if you haven't seen the scope methods that you can add to your models, I think it's pretty cool. So here it is right here, scope query with params. You can look that up in Laravel docs, and it's just a reusable query. That's pretty cool. What else here? Okay, so that'll be off of Laravel for a second. Let me close that out. Where was I? Okay, so now I'm looking back at my post service here. So I have these methods that I'm going to use in my controller to grab things. So here's my show. Basically, I'm passing an ID to it, and I'm returning that. Create, basically, I can just, like in my example, I can post an object to that, and then when it's done, I'm basically just broadcasting that post has been created. Same thing with updated. I'll have to show you how to do this in a second. And then these right here, I don't know if I'll get to, but those do stuff as well. All right, so back in my post list controller, you can see that my post service is calling list, and I'm calling my parameters here, which I've set to 5. I could just do that here if I wanted, but and then I've got this thing called money sign object or $ object, and in Restangular, what that is doing is that it is since everything is a promise, so basically it's going to actually go in and make that request. It doesn't, like, since JavaScript is synchronous, it's not going to really know to like set my post variable here until that promise is resolved, right? So it could be doing other things and I can totally miss it. But what this object is doing is basically it's sort of like a shortcut to doing then. So I can do then function, function posts, something like that, and then the same thing would be here. So I would say scope post equal post, and I could just take this out. So that's basically the same thing. So it's a little like a shorthand way of returning promises. Don't know how it's all done. It's magic, but so it's one-liner there.
The magic's where it all happens.
The magic's where it's happened. So next, as I have these event listeners, so you'll notice that I am listening for an event called post create. So once a post is created, I am refreshing that list. So I'm not like the better way of doing this would probably just to be to push the object, the new post object, onto the post array. But in this instance here, I'm just actually making the call again and reloading the list. All right. So let me see if I'm forgetting anything here. I feel like I'm going a million miles an hour because I feel like a crunch. Maybe I should have just done something simpler.
No, I think it's good, man. Everybody can watch the video a couple of times. I think there's a lot here, a lot of really good stuff.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully people are getting something out of this. All right, so what do I got here? Okay, so basically right now my app does not know about any of these files, so I need to load them. So I have this like commented out already. So I have actually I can't comment on all of those yet. So let's see, I got this one and this one. And I think that's it. So before I look like an idiot, let me test this out here. And it doesn't work. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. Get that out of here. I don't need the loading bar in here. Okay. Alright, so basically I need to load probably the app where that's at. There we go. Okay. Alright, so actually you probably can't see what I'm doing, huh? Alright, let's see. Hopefully that. Okay, so that didn't work. So basically, what do I have here? All right, so I failed to load a module, which I probably shouldn't have commented that out, but let me see what's the best way to do this. I'll just move things around for you. Hopefully it won't get you dizzy. Let's see here. So I need to go to my app, and I need to take this out. Hopefully that does it. And then let's go back and refresh this. Okay, so that didn't give me any errors, but I don't see any posts. So let's kind of debug this here. So let me just refresh that and see if we're actually making any calls. I'm not making any calls. So something is going on where I'm missing something. So probably in my haste here, I'm forgetting something. So let me just kind of look through here and see what I'm doing wrong. So the request is not going out. So let me go to my app here, and right now I am loading a list. My list controller. My list controller is here. If I say like a console log test, if I get that console log, so that's not being loaded. So let me see here. App. All right. This is like the most frightening thing anybody could ever go through is actually coding live.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do.
It is, because it's like something's bound to go wrong. It's like the simplest thing possible. I'm probably missing like a file somewhere. All right,
Right,
so
yeah.
So right now I am not seeing my test console. So my controller is not even being loaded. So I got to figure that out. So what is going on here? So I have Angular. I've got Cora, Angular, controllers, postless controller. And it's loading here. My app should be loading. So something I can test here would be just a console log test. Do this probably inside the console, but we'll just do it like this for now. Refresh, nothing. Oh, there we go. There's my test. So is that the right one? That's 2. All right. So that's good. So something is not working in here. What am I missing here?
Do you have a backup copy of the final?
I do. I could throw that all on here. Maybe that might be best, huh?
Or maybe just do a diff
Yeah, we could do that.
if you have an easy diff program.
Let me do this here. Let me just copy the files over and see if I can just get the app working. And then that way I can just walk through it in that way. I was wanting to just like rebuild the thing, and I thought it would go smooth, but I should know better.
It's going pretty smooth. I mean,
Yeah. So
problem.
I'm missing something small probably. So let me put this back, and then I'll walk through what's there already, and then maybe that'll be a little better. Let's see here. All right. And then. All right, almost done. Okay, let's see here. All right, so let's see if that does anything. Oh, hey, that loaded everything. Okay. Okay, so that's that, and now. So I must have done something weird with this like loading bar thing. That was kind of a last second addition that I did, and it's giving me help still. So there we go. All right, well we'll leave that loading bar out unless I fail to load it or something. So here we go. This is the. Okay, so basically on this I've got my 5 posts in here, which are all just kind of random. So that's basically that part of it. Let's see here. What I was going to do next? Notes. All right. So I created a belongs to many or has many. What do you call it? A many to many relationship with categories and tags. So a post. I basically have a pivot table. Let's see. Let me just open it up here. And let's just do this here. And so I have a post, and then I have a post can have tags, and tags can have posts, and same thing with categories and posts. Okay, so I want to show first of all, like I need to be able to create categories, and I need to be able to create tags. And in this example, I'm kind of just doing that all in its own view. So in my example here, and hopefully this works. Boom. Okay, so that did work there because there's no categories. So let's see if this does anything happen here. So something's messed up there. Gee whiz, sorry guys.
That's cool.
No, that's not good. See, let me see if tags does anything. That's not either. So I'm missing some stuff.
Well, maybe you can do like a diff after the
meetup
and kind of say what was wrong.
Yeah, so I'm missing some. Oh, you know what? Okay, so this is it, guys. Sorry. That's what happens when I try to be smart and like comment stuff out. I think this is all stuff that needs to be in there probably.
That's funny.
Yeah, isn't it? So let's see what happens now. Oh, there we go. All right. So let's go back here. So here we go. I have a categories page, so I can create categories. So I'm going to create one called Laravel DFW create. Okay. I can edit these. Well, and all this like form stuff is just Laravel magic. Excuse me, Angular magic. I can delete these.
Oh yeah.
So let me just kind of show you how that's working real quick. And Tanner, how am I doing on time? Is it like my past time, or do we have just a few more minutes?
We probably have like 10 minutes, and we probably want to get to questions, but I think you're
Okay.
doing great.
Okay, cool. We'll just keep going here for a second. So I want to show you my categories real quick and how I'm doing that. So first of all, in my app, I have a categories route right here. And again, I have this like abstract state, which is just loading a categories HTML file. So if I open that up, this feels a whole lot better now that I have stuff. I have all my files available. So I hit categories here. I basically just have this template for my categories. I have a category form, and then I have a list of categories. So right here I have two views basically, and they're talking to each other because obviously when I do something here, create, it's showing up in this one. So these are two separate views. As you can see here, UI view, category form, and categories. Okay, so I just want to like show you how those are connected and talking. I think that's just a big thing, and it was a kind of an aha moment for me just doing Angular stuff. So let's see here. So I have a categories service. Excuse me. I have category service, and it's kind of like my post service, which I have kind of this stated up here. So all my calls are going to be API version 1 categories. My list, this is just your typical list that calls my categories. When I want to post to it, here's a random console log, and then here is my delete. So you'll notice on each one of these things I'm broadcasting something. So when I broadcast when I've created something, when it's done and the promise is fulfilled and it came back, I am broadcasting, hey, anybody interested, a category has been created. In my controllers, I have a category list here, and then I have these event listeners here. So when a category is created, I'm doing this update list function here. And so basically all it's doing is calling it again. So basically I'm going back to the server and asking for it again. So every single time here when I do this, and like I said before, there's ways to like optimize that. But so if I say testing here, you'll see that I made a call. So first of all, I've made a post, and then I'm calling the list again, and it's updating it. A better, more optimized way would actually be to send the post, but then just push it onto the array rather than reloading it. So that way it's less requests. But this works for something like this, no big deal. What else I want to show you guys? You'll notice that I've created a category service. I'm injecting it here, just like I did with my posts. Each one of these things here are just delete. So anytime I do something like a delete, it's just doing the same thing. It's calling the delete method and it's refreshing that list. What else here? Something super cool about Restangular, like I mentioned earlier, is the put. Whenever you get a list, or whenever Restangular returns a list from the server, let's say of categories, each one of those categories is like a Restangular object with my data. So like it has the data hot pink for the name, and it also has methods for dealing with that object. So when I hit edit and I say something like testing or something and I update it, I'm going to show you the template for this real quick. So let's see here. Categories form. Super simple form here. Basically right here is my update button. and if you know anything about Angular at all, it has this like ng model thing. So whenever it's like the double binding thing, you have to look into that to kind of understand it. But basically, what I'm doing is I am passing this category back into my controller. So I'm making changes to it and passing this back into my controller. So this ng click is connected to my controller. I have a form controller. Let's see here. So I have one here for, let's see here. Oh, excuse me. Let's see, category list. Let's see here. Edit, broadcast. What was I going to show you guys? I totally just like lost myself here. Let me see. If I go to category service, I think this is where I'm looking. Okay. Yeah, so basically I'm passing this category into my service. And you'll notice that I'm not calling like category service here and then category and then get like category ID and then like doing this whole thing like function category and then like putting it here and then saying category put like that or something like that or making changes to it and then putting it. So like there's more that I'd have to do there, but basically what I'm trying to get at, hopefully this is making sense because this is like super cool, is that the category that I'm passing to my service has the method put and like other methods like for remove, and so it automatically knows like what to do with it. If I look at what I'm returning from this, and hopefully I can do this here. I think this is my get here. Yep. Let's see, no, that's not it. Let's see here. Refresh this. Okay, categories get. And for some reason I'm not seeing it. Okay, yeah, I'm confusing myself now. Anyway, I guess I'm not looking at the right thing. So basically, what I'm trying to get at is that you can return like an object that's been built by Restangular, and then use that object to do things like remove or to put, instead of having to like make one request to like grab it and then make another request to like update it, or to make one request to grab it and then to make another request to remove it. It's like that list of objects that I am outputting to the view, that is something that I can use to, each one of those objects is an element where I can use to do its own stuff and manage that particular object itself and make posts make puts and make deletes and do things like that.
That's very cool.
Hopefully that makes sense. So let me just show you guys. I feel like I bombed that part of it. That was like the part that I wanted to show the most, but I think I'll give you some resources, and where I've bombed it, you can kind of go back and look if you're interested. But all right, so I have a couple things. I have categories. I did all that already. I have tags, which is kind of the same thing. I can delete them. Same functionality. When I hit post here, I can see a list of all the posts instead of just 5. And then I have this form here. So these are 2 separate views, and like you would never like normally not do this, right? Like you wouldn't have like a creative post on the side here, but this is just how I'm doing it for this here. But I can say like testing, and then I'll say like hello world, and then select these categories. So these are ones that I've created, and got a couple categories there, and I hit create. And let's see here, testing. Where did I put that at? Oh, let's see here. Let's try the world. Right, Andrew. There we go. Oh yeah, I'm not showing categories on here for some reason. Okay, so yeah, I've got tags. So I have a detail page for these if I hit Andrew. So So this is just the body, and it's showing the categories and the tags. I haven't created detail pages for these categories and tags yet, but so I have this like my body here, and then I've automatically populated this form here, and so when I make updates here, so Andrew Del Prete, an update, I'll update that. I wanted to kind of get into like this nested resource thing and kind of show you that, but I probably don't have time to do that. But basically, I could add or remove categories by 2 different ways. So like if I want to just edit this form and say, I wish I had different category names, but I have like hot pink testing and all of these.
Yeah.
It would add, right? But like, let's say another API call might just be to remove one of them, right? So I have these like Xing. So if I hit that, it automatically like removes them, right? So and it makes a call and removes it from this list. So same thing with tags. So instead of editing the whole thing, it is basically just making that one call, and I will just show that just real quick for kicks. I go to category controller, and I'm going to do this. Let's see. Do service. Oh, I have it open. All right, so excuse me. Let's see here. Post service. I try to tie things with my REST API, like with my with like Restangular or any other type of service, kind of the way that I've done it in Laravel. So like in Laravel, I have a nested resource for categories that's attached to posts. So if I go to let's see, routes, HP, you'll notice that I have categories that's on posts. So that would show like all categories for posts or all tags for posts. So I've got that. So basically in my post service, I have these 2 different functions here. Basically that is doing the same thing. So it's calling my REST service. So first of all, it's calling API ID and then categories ID. So I have one REST API like endpoint that is allowing me to delete a category record from a post. And so I have that, and it's all tied into my post service. So I try to keep all that together. I do have a category service, but that's separate. Like that's for creating categories and deleting categories on the categories page or somewhere else. But since this is tied to posts, I have a place for it in my post service. So the same thing with tags. I'm doing the same thing here. And then once I delete a tag, it's broadcasting it here, and then I'm just refreshing my form. So if I go back to my posts, and then go Andrew Del Prete here, like this here, and I just like edit this and just add a couple of these. I'm just deleting one, and it's basically updating my form. And if I hit inspect element, and I go here, I hit like testing. So it's making a delete, and it's doing 2 gets for some reason. I have to. Oh, it's probably doing for one for here, one for there. Again, like I said, there's other ways to make that more efficient, but it's making that one delete to my post route right here. This is the deal that Restangular is doing for my Laravel routes. So I think that's it, guys. Let me go back to Keynote here and see if I can just do this real quick. And boom, you're not working. That's great. So some resources on that. I didn't want to give you like a whole lot of things, but the repository for this is this right here. It's github.com/design/Cora. And you can, there's like really basic installation instructions on there, and you can kind of look at it, or just look at the files if you don't want to install it. The Restangular docs are actually really good. Like they do a million times better explain things than I do, but there's so many different like configurations and things. Like I mean, you can do things almost like a setter and getter, or excuse me, like a mutator that you would do in Laravel when you're requesting data, and the data gets returned. You can like mutate it or change it.
Those are always helpful.
Yeah, totally. You can do stuff like that. Another place that I really like, and there's like a million of these online, but this is ngnewsletter.com, and this guy has like really good articles that just make sense to me. And he did one on REST Angular that is short and concise and is very helpful. So if you guys want to learn more about REST Angular, I'd probably suggest looking at the docs and then this. And there's lots of other resources online too. And then that's it.
Cool. Hey, can you post
That's all.
those to post them in a comment on the event if you would on meetup.com?
Okay.
That way people can just link straight to them. That'd be awesome.
Okay, I'll do that afterwards. That's cool. I think that's it, Tanner.
All right, well that's cool. So I guess we can go through some questions now. So what? I know we had one. So let me just check here. Actually, you're in here. Is it E-Cats or E-Cates? Are you there, E-Cates? Okay, maybe it's not working. Well, I'll just ask what he sent in the email.
Sure.
So he has 3 questions. Actually, the ones I sent you before, Andrew.
Okay.
So if I work on the same domain with Laravel and an Angular front end, I have problems with routing without a hash, because Laravel tries to find the routes with the location provider .html5 mode true. I think the only way to avoid Laravel overriding or trying to find other Angular routes is to request to a subdomain like api.laravel.com and the Angular app on laravel.com. Is there another way to?
Right. So I'm traditionally like a big fan of single page applications. So like I don't run into a lot of this because I let I let Angular decide what routes I'm using. So let's see here. There is something here, like I think I have a link I could show you here. Maybe here. So the Scotch is another really good resource, but there's like I think there's here somewhere, maybe app missing. So this is a Laravel route here that is really handy. Is like if there is a route, this might not be answering the question exactly, but if there is a route in Laravel or in your app that is being hit that does not have a Laravel route, I might have butchered that. Then it's going to pass it back to the index. It's going to show index. So like you could have like a Angular single page application at one route. Maybe it's not index. Maybe it's something else like about or something. And if somebody went to something that was missing, like or whatever, it could, or a route that's not being caught by Laravel, it can go into there. It'll actually forward you to that and show the other one instead. What else? Let's see here. Let me make sure I got this.
He actually asked a route that does not have a pound symbol or a hash.
So a route that does not have a pound. Let me read it real quick. If I work on the same domain with Laravel and Angular front end, I have problems with routing without hash because Laravel tries to find that route. I mean, with location. I think only way to avoid Laravel overriding or trying to find Angular routes is to route request. So basically, your site is being handled by a server, right? So your server is going to try to handle these routes first before it spits out anything. So I would say that if you're not using a single page application, or if you like have how can I say this? If you're not using a single page application, you're going to have a hard time with that because Laravel is going to try to handle those routes. But I think this is kind of where this comes in. It's like if there is no route, for instance, it's like if you have an about route, and that about route needs to be just a regular Laravel view, then you can you could say that up here somewhere or whatever in your routes file. But and that's not going to really it's not going to really mess with Angular too much. But like if you want this Laravel app, or excuse me, this Angular app to run on the index, then you're going to need to make the index in the routes in your Laravel routes use that. So I guess that's kind of hard. So you have to be explicit with naming your routes in Laravel, and you're going to have to let Angular handle the routes off of index, unless that Angular HTML5, you're basically saying you want a that no hash bang, no hash, and you want it just to be like /about. You can do that, but it kind of with some cost. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can email this guy.
answer your question, Ecats? He's in the chat right now, so I can
Oh, is
see
he? Okay.
his post. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Oh, so he says, so what do you think? So what you think is that in a SPA app, it's not so important. SPA means single page
Yeah.
app, for those of you who
Right.
don't know that.
Right. Yeah, I would say in a single page app, it's not so important because you're letting Angular or whatever you're using kind of handle those routes for you. But what I am saying is that you can do this. Like if you have if you have 10 pages and 9 of them are Laravel, you can do that because your client or your user is going to hit your Laravel routes first before it hits Angular. So what you can do is if you have 9 routes that are Laravel, you need to specify those in your routes in Laravel. But that 10th route, you need to make sure that that goes to like the index page or something that will actually go ahead and call Angular, so Angular knows it needs to be called, or whatever path that you have it to go to. I think that makes sense. I think that this particular tutorial by Scotch might really help. I think it kind of explains some of that, if that helps at all. And I'll post that here. So it is possible. It is possible to have Laravel spit out routes that are not being fed by Angular, because like I said, when you are a user and you hit a site, your server is seeing things first, not Angular.
Cool.
Anyway,
So the second question is, when he wants to use just Angular and add some functionality to a specific page in a web app, not when used to manage REST, how to avoid conflicts with Blade. Only changing the bracket symbols in Angular Blade or using a PHP echo.
Right. So okay, so this kind of comes back to the single page application stuff. Like I'm a pretty big advocate of SPA, and because it separates kind of your front end from your back end. And I kind of like to think my back end as a API as something that's a service, and then I like to think of my front end as something that's calling that service, and it's like two distinct things. So since they're both using the double brackets, and let's say you're not using a SPA, let's say maybe you have like one view that's in Laravel that has like a little widget that's in Angular. Laravel actually offers, goodness gracious, I can't remember where it's at. But there's actually a way to change the blade syntax in Laravel, so something that's different. Like, let's see here. I think using the blade. Okay, here's a good article here on that. Oops, that's not going to work. Let's see here. Using Laravel blade with Angular templates to redo. So this is a good. So yeah. So here is an example of that. So Blade has like a facade that you can use that actually sets it to something else. So that would solve your problem if you have to load Angular and Blade in the same template.
Yeah, it sounds like both of these are related to just using SPA apps, which are single page apps again, or doing a Laravel and Angular approach.
Right.
So yeah, if you can, it sounds like you could do it on either one. Either use a single page app or change the default Blade schema to be something else. And Ecats actually posted in the chat. You could use just a random character set like open bracket percentage or something like that that just basically is different from curly brace.
Right.
There's also another
Totally.
thing that they have, and I don't because I tried to change the symbols once, and I was having issues with
Okay.
it. But you can use an @ symbol and then the brackets. Like if you just put an @ symbol in front of the brackets for Angular, um, Blade ignores it, or is it that? Yeah,
That could
Blade
be it. I
ignores
think
it,
it
and
escapes it
it says
or
for Angular.
something. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can use an @ symbol, which is it's kind of weird, but it worked for what I did.
My very first Angular app, I mixed these things together like crazy. It's a huge application, and it was like the biggest mess and nightmare ever. I wish I would have done it just completely separate. Like so, I just kind of I recommend if you can. It's a different way of thinking about things because now you're not using Blade. You know, you're not using Laravel to do these views for you, and that comes with some prices. And what you don't, and like this is kind of what I've learned. What you don't use in your Laravel Blade stuff I make for in your API. So you have to spit out stuff so you can use in Angular, and then build everything in Angular or whatever app you're using. Um, it just doesn't do it by itself. So you have to have routes for things to call for specific things like permissions is one thing. When that gets a little bit more complicated, but you need a route or something that you can grab some permissions and do things with. And that way, then so you can show certain items and turn off certain items. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, cool. So then I think if you have any questions, be sure to go to laraveldfw.com/ask. So we have a third question, and then any of you guys that are in this chat, you can jump in. So first, it says last question. Say you're working with REST that responds to an HTTP route, method, and request model. Um, what about the response? Would JSON be okay? Um, he says that he's seen Airbnb a while ago rendering HTML and JSON responses and inserting them into the web app
Hmm.
or web view apps. Is it a good way to do it with Angular? Should you just respond with data or use client-side
Yeah.
templating?
Yeah. Like I said, like what I did in my little app is I am just responding with JSON. And I'm just responding with data and letting Angular handle the templates for me. So I'm not spitting out like unless it was like formatted HTML like within like which I probably will have to do if I make this into like a little blog application, a real one that a user could actually format their posts. Then you'd have to save some HTML and then render that. But for the most part, your templates are all going to be handled by Angular because Angular has its own like templating engine and different things like Blade would or Twig or whatever else, and you use those things to like loop over a bunch of posts or items in an array or show or hide things based upon your model or your data you've received. So it's very important to use the Angular templating system and just kind of feed that data. It all works off of data.
Yeah, it sounds like only when you're talking about user-generated content that
Right.
is in like multiple, like a post, or even if you had a forum and you allowed HTML of any sort, um, even just like if you wanted to allow markup, I mean, you would
Right.
have to either convert that to HTML on the server or get some sort of Angular thing that converts markup into, um, I'm sorry, markdown into markup.
Mark.
So,
Okay.
if you allowed Markdown to do bold and italics inside of some sort of forum post, or
Right.
even just that light layer on your blog platform.
Right. And another thing, just to be aware of with Angular and stuff is, and this is kind of just might be personal preference, but what I found is that you want to do like most of your heavy lifting on your server. Remember that like Angular runs client side, and so if somebody has a slow computer or they're not using like a good browser or something, and you send them like a ton of JSON data, they have to process that, right? So you don't want to have them do like a ton of work. So like maybe a good example would be like formatting dates. For instance, like I have not done that in this. Like you can see I have this like, kind of awkward looking date here. Like I could do that in Angular. Like there's some libraries, that would allow me to just to take this date and like format it, and I could do it in a filter, in a template filter. It would be pretty easy. It's almost like the filters in Angular work a lot like Laravel's or Twig. But the best thing for me to do is probably do this as like a mutator, in Laravel and spit back the date the format date that I want. And so that way I'm only working with data. I don't have to like mess with it or massage it too much. So I would say maybe in the case of like HTML and stuff, if you had something that you did some markdown or something and saved it, I haven't done that, but I would have the server probably render that and spit back the HTML and then render it client side. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does anybody here have any questions? I don't think we're getting any on in the forum. So again, laraveldfw.com/ask. But does anybody else have Osvaldo or Seth? Anybody? Looks like everybody's good.
I have some broad questions, not about that specifically.
Okay.
If you want to ask later, or I don't know.
No, go ahead and ask him, man.
Well, I was just curious what everyone thought about Laravel 4.3.
Yeah, I
Anyone's been
mean,
keeping
I
up on that?
think it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Let me turn my video back on. I turned it off because
Sure.
I was messing with my dog earlier. So the Laravel 4.3, it looks really cool. I like the new structure. I mean, Laracast has some good stuff online just describing all of the differences. It sounds like we're getting some feedback. Andrew, I don't know
Yeah.
if it might be your...
Yeah, I got my headset on, but it's just so weird that it does that. Let me mute.
Yeah, there we go. It does that at work too. You need to just get a new headset or something. No, but 4.3 is it looks cool. I haven't looked too much at it. Have any of you guys, Osvaldo? Oh, maybe his headphones are out. Osvaldo, have you checked out 4.3 a lot?
Yes, in fact, our CMS platform, we immediately upgraded to it, and I really like the neat new features, especially fly system being included. That's big. Form requests are very interesting. If you've seen the video on Laracast, um, what else? What bothers me is that, for example, like that everything is now PSR4, right? On 4 and 4.3. Have you seen
Yeah.
that? So what bothers me is
Mhm.
that, and maybe I don't know if this is. Some people say it's not that a big deal, and Taylor himself says this is like an aesthetical thing. But Workbench doesn't support PSR4 yet, and I would love it if it would, because then we can keep the same standard for or leverage Workbench to develop new packages in PSR4. Whereas if you wanted to use Workbench right now, you're gonna do artisan Workbench, generate a package, it's gonna be PSR0, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
though it's not a big deal because it's just two folders deep, PSR4. But if you have something like a CMS where you want to make keep PSR4 as the standard for all the modules, and you want to make those modules packages, then it's very important, you know.
Right.
So there's actually a couple of duplicate conversations that been happening on GitHub. People asking the same thing. Hey, is Workbench gonna support Artisan? Gonna help us generate PSR4 packages? And there's some interest, and I think it's very natural if Laravel is now everything is PSR4 that Workbench supports it, since it's supposed to be the standard, versus the thing is
Right.
that there's so many PSR0 packages out there that if Workbench were to support PSR4, it also has to support PSR0 because we don't want to lose backwards compatibility with all those packages. But that's one of my concerns. But everything else is awesome. I mean, like they call it the mini Christmas, and it's true. It's some really awesome features in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving more into it. We had Labor Day on Monday in the US, so it's been a crazy week getting back into things. So I just need to catch up, and I think probably Jeff has probably released all of his updates to it. So I'm sure there's probably like 5 or 6 videos that explain all the greatness that's waiting for us all. But we're gonna have to update all of our stuff, so it's gonna be a pretty big thing, I think. It should be pretty easy though, but I think all of our structures are already pretty well in line with some of the new structure, the directory structure, and I look forward to seeing what new features there are.
Just moving stuff around and you're done. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
The form validate, or all the validators are really nice.
Yeah.
And like Andrew said, the method injection is pretty
Oh,
sweet.
man.
And just the fact that you can
That's
method
crazy.
inject the validator and have it automatically do all that, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, method injection.
Any other questions? Seth, you just jumped in here. You don't have any questions at all? I guess maybe, are you in a public place? You don't have a mic? Well, it's okay. Well, if you have any other questions, be sure, oh, you're in a bar. That's a good place to hit up Laravel DFW. Yeah, if you have any questions, shoot them in, and then we can try and answer them on the Meetup group. I think for now we'll sign off and everything else. Andrew, do you have any parting words or any awesome other wisdom you want to impart before we sign off?
No, I hope you got something out of my talk. Sorry it didn't go super smooth, but maybe you can look back at it and learn something.
It was great.
Okay, good. And I just encourage you guys, if you're interested in it, hit me up if you need to. There's lots of resources online, and I'll go ahead and try to get those things posted so you could read up some documentation on it or some other ways of looking at it. I appreciate this.
It's Paths of Design, right?
Yeah. That's like my freelance company I started in college. I don't really do much with it, but I've kept it along for a long time.
Yeah, so just hit up twitter.com/pathsofdesign. And I was looking at what platform to use, Speaker Deck or Slide Deck, or what is it? Slide something. But anyways, we'll pick one and then post it on the Meetup group, so just check back there. And we should be good. So I guess, Andrew, you're going to post some links on the Meetup group as well, so just stay tuned there.
Yeah.
And I'll also try and add all of these links and the Speaker Deck or Slide Share, whatever it is, to the YouTube description. So any of you that are watching on YouTube can watch after this. If you're a visitor from the future, just look at the description down there. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. And again, this is the September meetup of Laravel DFW. Look forward to next month. I think Osvaldo, you're going to be presenting some awesome stuff on your platform, right?
Yes. I'm going to be presenting the beta version of the lexicon template engine for PHP, but it was built with Laravel in mind. And yeah, it's exciting. I am looking forward to that. I mean, it's going to be released to the public, so you're going to be able to play with it in any of your Laravel applications. And basically, I'll give you an introduction and to get you up and running on how to use it.
Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to downloading the app from GitHub that Andrew has up there, just so I can kind of look through the Angular code and learn some more about it. So, yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I'll see you next month. Peace.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.